I didn't bring any slides because my talk deals specifically with using your imagination. And so I want you to use your imagination instead of look at the slides that I could have made. That's also lazy, but let's not talk about that part. So we tell our kids that anything is possible with the imagination, and this is actually a lie. Your imagination is limited by what you know, by your reference frames. I know you're going to say to me, but Patrick, I can imagine anything. In fact, you actually cannot. You cannot imagine things which you have no frame of reference for, no exposure to, and no words to describe. When you attempt to imagine something, really all you're doing is taking a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. You're taking pieces of your experience, your greater life experience, and just sort of recombining them in different ways, or variations thereof. You can imagine combinations of things, but not things that you've never been exposed to whatsoever. And this might seem a little counterintuitive. You can think, well, I can just imagine anything I want. Try and imagine a color that is not a mixture of other colors that you already know. A little more difficult. Try and imagine an alien organism that does not share anatomical characteristics or body plan characteristics of an organism that you've already seen on Earth. Pretty much anything goes. Legs, tentacles, multiple eyeballs. We've got it all. But again, none of these things are actually original. They're just combinations of things that you've already been exposed to. Sometimes during the problem-solving and creative process, we hit a brick wall where we're unable to proceed until we get the proverbial flash of inspiration that allows us to continue and solve the problem that we were working on. We get stumped, we have no words to go ahead to move forward. The concept seems impassable to us. We sit there spinning our wheels in the mud, unable to continue, until we get a new idea, a flash of inspiration. It can be Einstein on the trolley looking at the clock, which the imagination and inspiration that he needs to come up with the idea that moves him forward. But even those novel ideas are only variations of things that he was already exposed to, things that he was already working on. I'd like to share some ideas with you about how to change that block in your creative process from a brick wall, the imagination brick wall, into the imagination horizon, which then provides you virtually limitless forward movement in either your problem-solving or creative process without being hindered by not having the original ideas to move forward, or not even knowing where to go from there, or being stuck in a single point of view where your subject matter expertise has given you actually a species of myopia and being unable to see outside of the tunnel vision that you're trying to use to solve your actual problem. The limits of our imagination have always actually been a problem, and as we've tried to turn science fiction into science fact, we hit more walls. Everything that has been depicted in science fiction actually is only variations of things which the people who were writing about them were already exposed to. For example, Jules Verne's famous submarine, the Nautilus, was not actually described as being powered by nuclear power, as is frequently attributed to him. It's actually powered by a combination of Bunsen cells and induction coils, which were emerging technologies of Jules Verne's day. He simply hypothesized that these might be scaled up and be used to provide pure electrical power for his submarine, which was novel. But again, it's just a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. These were things that he was already exposed to and therefore had a frame of reference with which to access. He just decided to combine them in a new and novel way that no one else had combined them before. Same goes for Star Trek style innovations, like the touchscreen interfaces in Star Trek The Next Generation. These are actually just extrapolations of emerging technologies that were in their infancy when the writers wrote them that way. When Star Trek The Next Generation's writers first depicted touchscreen interfaces, touchscreens themselves were actually in their infancy. The writers just simply extrapolated on that and hypothesize that they might be used ubiquitously in the future. When trying to come up with new and novel ideas, we'll rack our brains for this stuff and try and figure out everything we can. And again, it's only just pieces from column A and pieces from column B. Like, I'm going to create a kids' TV show. A purple dinosaur. Nobody's ever seen a purple dinosaur. Well, purple dinosaur is just a little from column A and a little from column B. Animal and a color. It's nothing that you're actually unfamiliar with. You're just creating a variation of something that you're already aware of. Now, that thing might not actually exist in reality, but it is simply nothing more than a variation of something that you already know. So, how does this actually limit us? We think that, we use our imaginations to solve problems every day, and science fiction writers, fantasy writers every day, they have vivid imaginations, they imagine stuff that doesn't exist, science fiction becomes a science fact. How does it actually limit us? Well, again, it's because we artificially limit ourselves by not engaging the viewpoints of others as frequently as we should. Oftentimes, we rely on only ourselves to solve problems, especially when we are subject matter experts. I've run into this myself being a network engineer, always sitting looking at a problem, stumping me. One of my colleagues will walk by and immediately see it. This sort of block in our creative process is something that we don't normally think about, even though we spend a lot of time actually wasted in trying to solve a problem that realistically could be solved by just asking somebody else. And that brings me to my next point, which is we need to actually engage the imaginations of other people's on a daily basis to help us with our problem-solving tasks to overcome those limits of our imagination. And you can think of people's imaginations and life experiences as being a big set of Venn diagrams. They all overlap a little bit. Most people know basic mathematics. Some people know sociology. Some people know psychology. Other people are information technology experts. Some people are physicists. Some people are creative types, artists, writers, etc. All of our Venn diagrams of personal experience overlap in some fashion, whether it be more or less. The way to actually harness this to your advantage is to simply engage people that are outside of your subject matter expertise. The reason is because as our brains are basically just giant Boolean logic tables referencing all the pieces of data that we've encountered, we again choose just from column A and column B, putting our words together out of our vocabulary and our life experiences to describe something to someone else as we communicate it through language. But somebody that's outside of your subject matter expertise will see the problem differently, and they will use different words than you do to describe the problem and to describe their views of it. This, in turn, these different words that you yourself did not use in your problem-solving process will spark word associations in your brain of different concepts that you might not have previously considered. And this can actually help you overcome that stumbling block where you sit and tear your hair out working on a problem that seems to be impassable. Realistically, all we need to do is put our collective brain power together to solve problems and turn that imagination brick wall into an imagination horizon. Thank you.